Hey people, what's going on? So this is something I've been working on for the past few days, and this project is called Blemger. So what this project does is basically it creates a blend between two images, and okay, so let's see the project. And over here you can see that for each of the available images you have some sliders available, and basically all these sliders affects as acts as a multiplicative factor for each of the planes. That is, the red value affects the red plane, the green value affects the green plane, and the blue value affects the blue plane. So same for this image. And over here, so you can set on the sliders, move the slider bars as you wish, and then you can create an go down here and hit the Blemger button, and there you go, a nice blend of the two images is created. Okay, so that's in just what happens. And then over here obviously you can select on choose a file, and choose a file, choose an image that you want to create a blend with, so you can play around with it. Basically it's a fun little project I've been working on. And uh, all right, so okay, next we see we have this alpha slider, which we cannot move, by the way. And why we can't do that, right? So why I cannot move the alpha bar, alpha a slider is basically the alpha. What alpha is in JavaScript is basically it controls the opacity of the image. So basically if you're going to play around with it, you can play around with it, from the options menu. From here you can enable the alpha slider, and then you can start playing with it, right? So why have I disabled this by default is because that if you have that enabled, then you can probably see this. So yeah, uh, uh, it's probably not that obvious. Let me just do something like that. Actually it's not that obvious because it's in a linear blend. So what happens is basically the image that gets created by the blend is basically has opacity lower than 1, and so basically it's a see-through image. So until you want to do that, you don't want to mess around with the alpha value. So if you just disable this by default, then all the opacity is maximized. All right. And what else? Well, let's see. Over here you can see that moving one of these slider bars affects the other one. So basically what I'm doing here is basically for one plane the multiplicative factor is summing up to 1. So that's what I'm maintaining by that, and this is what is called linear blend. So if you just disable that from the options, then you can move one of these bars freely, and you can create a nice what happens if you are moving it freely and it's summing over 1 is basically the images, the pixels in the images are basically getting too bright. So basically you will get a combination of too bright pixels, and it looks doesn't look that, you see over here, you can see over here that it got too bright over there. All right, so you can play around with it. Obviously sometimes you may just hit the right right ratio. All right, so I'm going to enable that. And moving on to the next option over here, which is the negate left image. So what is negate left image is basically what it does is basically in this by default what it's doing is it's summing up the two values, right? Summing up the two pixels of each. For the blended image, each one of the pixels is getting summed up for each one of the corresponding pixels of the two images, and it's getting multiplied by that multiplicative factor which you are mentioning over here. So which negate basically means that it negates, puts a minus sign in front of the pixels of the left image, which is this image of King Kong, which is the left image. And basically you will see that if I just do something like this and then create a blend, it negates it. Okay, so if it's not that obvious, I'm gonna keep those. Okay, I've clicked it. All right, so if you now see that, see, it negates it. You can quite well see it. And now if you just negate the right image, then you can see a different combination over there. All right, there you go. Cool, man. All right, so and then if you negate both of these images, then basically it will be a sum up, and probably it's going to negative. Yeah, what happens here is basically it's negative negative. It gets summed up and it goes far into the negative side, and it goes below zero. So zero is selected as the pixel value, and a dark image appears. So I'm going to disable both of them. All right. So next up, looking at this option of make Blemgered image height and width max of two images. Probably it's not that clear what it does. So what by default happens here is basically for the two images here, uh, the minimum width and the minimum height is selected for the final Blemgered image. So for it compares both of the images, the natural width for both of the images, and it gets the minimum, and it uses the minimum width of both the images and the minimum height of both the images to make the final Blemgered image. Now the reason behind doing this is basically if I'm using something if the maximum is used, basically you will find one image is stuck at a corner, so basically all the pixels of the smaller image won't be covering the complete Blemgered image. So basically what this option gives allows you to do is basically allows you to use the max height and max width for both of the images. And you can see an example of it. Just increase that over there and Blemger. So it's probably not that clear, but here you can see that the rabbit image is smaller than the King Kong image. So the rabbit image is you know uh, obstruct has stopped right over here over, if you can see this line over here. So it has stopped, or probably it's the King Kong image which has stopped. I don't know, but there is one image which is whose height is smaller than the other, and it has stopped over here. So basically, or for very for images that are differing in a high, differing hugely in their sizes, basically you will see one of the smaller image cornered in the top left corner over here. So it doesn't look that great until you are like creating some combination and I don't know, making something look cool. All right, so that is all about Blemger, and this is the fun little project I've been working on. And the principal concept behind this project is the concept of linear blend, which is basically multiplying a number to the pixels, multiplying a value to the pixels of one image, and adding that image with another image, and adding and multiplying let me start over, multiplying a factor to both the images and adding them up and to create a blend, right? So that's the principal concept which lies behind Blemger. All right. So the whole code is open source, by the way. Okay. Before moving to that, so we have a fun option over here, which is called make the heart beat. Now, what does this does? What does this do? So you can, if you click that option and you come to the bottom of the screen, you can see this heart thing over here pumping up and down. So this is like fun animation. I, just popped up in my head, and I use that. Firstly, I went with that by default, but then I thought it would be annoying for some of you guys, so I just made it into an option. Like I could, I, you know I couldn't just get rid of it. It's very fun to watch. Anyway, so by the way, the whole code is open source, so if you want to check out the repository, you can check it out. It's private right now. I'll make it public by the time I release this video. So as you can see, you can go through the documentation, and you can add your blends here, by the way. Feel free to make a pull request. All right. And everything basically is done in JavaScript. Not basically, it is done in code JavaScript. So, and this is where the magic happens. And it's one file, and the function where the magic happens is called blend, this one. So you can go through it, and the main loop where the magic happens is this one. You check it out. All right. Okay. So that was it, and feel free to fork it and go crazy. All right. Okay, that would be all. Bye bye.